Welcome back. My name is Cole, and we are here to talk books and figure out which ones are worth your time and which ones you can leave on the shelf. Today, I wanted to talk about the New York Times top 5 fiction books of 2023. I already talked about 2024, and you can go check out that video here. First up is The Fraud. Listen, if talking about this book was a part time job, I would have it. Unfortunately, that part time job would consist of discussing how much I vehemently, with 10 toes on the ground, dislike this work. And I'm sorry to Miss Smith. Genuinely. I have heard good things, I think, about White Teeth, and I'm more than willing to pick that up. This book was not it for me. It is a historical fiction title set in the Victorian era, and it chronicles a specific trial. I she seems to double down on this kind of Victorian era style, and maybe that's what I dislike about it. I don't read a lot of Victorian era literature, so maybe it's on me. Maybe it's my fault. But it doesn't change my opinion on the experience that I personally had with this. And in fact, I might even push back on that hypothesis because I don't feel like the plot was really tackled in a way that was successful. I felt that the whole thing was really meandery. The way she employed language was so grating to me. It didn't work. We read this in one of my book clubs, and one of the members said, Zadie Smith is the fraud. That feels extreme, but it feels maybe accurate in terms of like the some of the praise that this book received, specifically for one of the top 5 fiction books of 2023, which like I read a lot in 2023, and there were a lot of great works that came out in 2023, and to choose this one feels fraudulent. Next up is The Bee Sting. This title was shortlisted for the Booker Prize. Y'all, I loved it. I loved it. I'm on another app where some other folks have commented their conflicting opinions, but I truly loved this work. Now, it's a honker, but I wouldn't even necessarily say that I feel like it needs to be edited down all of that much. The book is set in Ireland, and it's about a family and all of the secrets that they hold and kind of how those secrets start to bubble up to the surface, both for us as readers as well as the characters within the story. So each section is told from the perspective of a different family member. And I will say, the mother's first section is slow at the beginning. So if you pick up this title and it feels a little slow once you get to the mother's first section and you're like, I have how much more to go? Push through, because I promise it gets better and I promise it picks up. One of the difficult things, though, is that in the mother's section, the author chose to not include any periods, which I get it. And it's weird. They do include question marks and they do include capitalization, but there's no period. I do feel like it is a commentary on the character and kind of a commentary on her stream of consciousness inside her mind, and like kind of the frenetic qualities of the mother and the way she's kind of lost, I think, in life. I think that is what they're trying to capture here. To me, it didn't serve as an impediment. It just took some getting used to once you're in the mother's section. But that said, I also loved septology, and I don't think there's any periods in that book either, which, wild and crazy, I know. I may have read them roughly around the same time, so that could have been my brain was just like used to that treatment, so it didn't throw me off as much. But I could understand that that could be wearing, particularly when that's the section that gets a little slow. That's what gets frustrating. But if you can push through that, I really feel like that's one of the only flaws of the book, to be honest. I will say at the very end, it is very stereotypically Irish. So I'm not giving it away because there kind of is no end. Like, it ends very stereotypically Irish novel in that it leaves a lot of things up in the air. So you kind of have to go in, I think, little like stealing yourself a little bit mentally to prepare for that at the end. But I think it's cool. It like the way that it ends begs conversation. It is like rife for a book club. It is rife to like call up a friend and talk to them about what you think happened. I had a friend who recently finished this, and he texted me immediately and he was like, "Oh my gosh, do you think this happened?" And people in my book club said that this happened. And like, he's like, "There's no way." It was just, I think it's really great. I loved that the experience of reading that book, and I would highly recommend The Beasting. Next is Northwoods. I loved it. Now, again, on another app, I had some folks just today who were telling me, nah, 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 and they had all their strong opinions about it. But I loved it. It is a book that is centers around a piece of property, like a house specifically, and then each section is split up by month, pretty much. So you're seeing the house experience different months of the year throughout time. I think we start like in the Puritans at the very beginning, and I think by the end we're present day. And one of the quotes I think that summed it up the best was, "The only way to understand the world as something other than a tale of loss is to see it as a state of change." Again, the only way to understand the world as something other than a tale of loss is to see it as a tale of change. And I feel like that is such a beautiful life lesson. And I would argue that this book doubles down on that sentiment. There is a lot of loss that happens in the house, in the inhabitants of the house, and even the house itself. You could make an argument there's like loss in its bones, right? But it's ultimately a story about change and how the environment changes and how a place changes. I know there was a movie out recently that I think didn't get great reviews with, was it Tom Hanks? That maybe had like a vaguely similar idea. This to me does it really beautifully. Oh, I will say, a friend of mine listened to the audiobook, and I think that this is a physical copy book. And because I don't know what the electronic copy would look like, but I feel strongly that in order to get the most out of this book, you need the physical copy, because each section or chapter has like some photographs, and then it also has some poetry, or it will have some like footnotes. Almost feels like a historical scrapbook. So in that way, it's really a multi-dimensional experience as a work. I feel like Blackouts, if any of you read that by Torres, was vaguely similar to that idea, where it's like, yes, it's a book, yes, it's very clearly a novel, but it's also almost an experience. And I would argue that that's what this is. And in order to get the most out of it, I do. I think getting the physical copy will elevate your experience. It's just cool. And like, listen, do you lose out by not having the photographs? Like, no. But I just think it sets the tone and it sets the world, and it just like fully creates this 360-degree experience that it was designed to be. I mean, this is one of the, you know what I mean? Like, you're not, it's not going to change your life. It's not going to ruin your life if you don't have it either. But like, to me, it would be weird to hear like the poem right before this, and then do they describe the picture? I don't know. And then to go right into the next chapter, like the next story, that's going to feel jarring, and you're almost going to be like, where are we? And see here, like, you'll have a photograph, then you'll move into the poem, and then you'll have that other photograph that I showed, and then you'll go back into the story. Listen, if you hate that, you'll probably hate the book, but I do think that there's also a way to kind of fly through that treatment as well and get to kind of the meat of the story, which I think is done brilliantly. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it higher. I loved Northwoods. Now we have Eastbound. I It wasn't bad. Uh, the way it used language was great. I thought it was like love, like the writing was beautiful. I thought it built lovely tension. It's about this train ride, but I do not understand it being on the New York Times top 5 fiction books of 2023. The choice more than the book makes me roll my eyes, if I'm being honest. I just I just don't understand the hat tip. I think that's a huge hat tip. I really respect that like acknowledgement. And I just again, the same way I felt about the fraud, like I don't feel like it was better than many of the excellent books that were published in 2023. It's just odd. Again, if you want some lovely writing that like builds tension in a nice way, and you want to check a book off your list and get through something quickly, fine. But like, I don't think you will be less for not reading it. And I think that's what I want from these lists. I want to feel like all five of these titles are going to if affect my life in some way, right? Which therefore by not reading them would also impact my life, like ideally negatively, right? And I just feel like this isn't that. And unfortunately, I feel like the fraud negatively impacts my life because I spent so much time reading something that didn't work from deep love and affection. The last title I wanted to talk about was Chain Gang All Stars. I have heard conflicting things about this book, and I think it depends on the type of reader you are. I loved it. I thought it was a great commentary on the prison industrial complex in the United States, told through this kind of Hunger Games adjacent, a lot of violence like story. So I could see if violence specifically doesn't resonate with you, or if that feels like too much to take on right now, or just like at any point in your life, then I could see having a negative relationship with this title. But to me, it explored the failings of the system in a very unique fiction forward way, which I think made a lot of the issues more digestible, and something that I got more out of being told through this story than I personally would have been through like a nonfiction title. If that makes any sense. So in that way, it was really powerful to me. And I thought that the storytelling was great. I thought that it had nice propulsion. I thought that it was action packed. I thought that there was a lot of nice plot. Do I think that it was maybe like one of the five best in terms of just like writing an actual title itself? No. Do I think the treatment of the subject matter is what pushed it into the top five? Yes. But I do. I think it's worth your time, and I really enjoyed it. So okay, so final thoughts. Leave it on the shelf. Leave it on the shelf. Absolutely. I really think it's worth it. Push through the mother's first section if it feels slow to you. I promise it picks back up. Yes, it is beautiful. It is quiet. It is complex. It is a work of art. I mean, if you want to, I'm not going to stop you, but I don't. I think that there are better. If you're looking for a short book, Claire Keegan. Claire Keegan, Small Things Like These, Foster. Yeah. And yeah, I think that it's absolutely worth it. Again, know what you're getting into. Make sure that you're ready to tackle that head on. And if you are, I think you'll absolutely be satisfied. Great. I will see you next time and we can talk some more books.